India's global footprint and growing that naturally in today's scenario when there are a lot of exogenous issues, there are a lot of economic challenges, is naturally a subject of considerable discussion. And young ladies and gentlemen, that when we look at India at a tipping point, at an inflection point, you will recognize that we have certain demographics, certain characteristics which are like fantastic. I think the new government, with the best of intentions, with very, very good intentions, has launched certain visionary programs, and I don't speak for them, I speak as an independent, that make in India, digital India, startup India, stand up India, which is like a execution statement, are reasonably visionary blueprints. Because if you imbibe all of that and get little motivated with that, and you realize that this is like something which is very consequential, which is happening in our economy, in our young economy, in our young and dashing economy. And I think the Prime Minister of our country, his intentions are very good. I think he's built global credibility for our nation, which was set back for a few years. And to me, that is very important because nation building also requires brand building. Because brand building of a nation is about confidence, it's about conviction, it's also about being able to communicate. So when these three C's come together, and the fourth C is a charming Prime Minister, at least I like to believe that we are reasonably on the right track in terms of global vision. But we have inheritance, we have legacy issues, which sometimes are significant speed breakers.
Thank you, Mr. Rana. That was...
This is fairly recent.
No, I think that's actually futuristic and very important and crucial for India. For the interest of time, I think we're going to go quickly into question and answers. Any questions?
In India, when someone's really worried about banks, they talk about the non-performing assets of public sector banks. So I was wondering, is this an exaggerated problem or is it under control by Rajan? Also, on the side, I've heard Vijay Mallya is hiding in London in case.
He's probably taking a long walk in Regent Park. But if I can maybe respond to this, Ruth, with your approval. I think on the, what you said about the export, issues, India still needs to build quality assurance. We need a lot of certification programs, and we need to naturally make sure that the Ministry of Commerce and Industry is able to create certain quality ISO equivalent benchmarks. And I think it can be done on product, it can be done with the right commitment. There are enough trade associations which need the right representations. The Export-Import associations in India are very, 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 very motivated. The problem is that we don't have the quality controls as prescribed in certain industries. So I think that is the need of the hour, which the Commerce and Industry Ministry can percolate. And if you have a representation, I'll be very happy, because I've been a head of a chamber very recently to represent that. But to come to the next point, I think the next point was on the remittances. Indian NRIs, as you know only too well, are very large population. I think there are about 25 million, 2.5 crore people around the world. And it's about interest rates and partly about family commitments and partly also about being able to meet household requirements within the families. So this is the number that irrespective of the interest rate sensitivity has been growing in absolute terms and even in percentage terms, even correspondingly year on year. And I think this is a very resilient number, and more global uncertainty And with minus interest rates, this number will be fairly insulated, and if at all, I think it will only grow because the opportunity in India in real terms is a little bit more, plus household commitment. So I think the $72 billion last year should accrete even more going forward. But this is the number that doesn't go out. The good thing is it's not something which is volatile, it's not speculative. It's a number that is fairly, resilient and fairly dynamic. And I think this number will continue to grow. On public sector banks, it's a tragedy because if I can really get to the roots, because this is a very fundamental and headline issue in India right now, that public sector banks were used in India for fiscal dispensation. Because India could not afford, like in the advanced world, to use Uncle Sam and to use, the overall, Federal Reserve banks to dole out, right, to create the economy stimulation. So in India, the vehicles that were applied for monetary easing, quantitative easing, were public sector banks. When we had the impact of the Bear Stearns and Lehman, the global crisis in 2008-9, which perpetuated into the Eurozone crisis and then India's own crisis in October 2011, the overall economic precipitation that happened. So Indian banks were used as vehicles for liberal lending because the government did not have the purse strings to really use their coffers, and our central bank, as in Reserve Bank of India, cannot do it, right, under our constitution. So these banks were used, and now because of that precipitation, with the lag effect, they have suffered, and they are reflecting, their report cards are reflecting this perpetuation on their balance sheets. It's called nowadays the dual balance sheet problem, because one side naturally is the asset quality, on the other side is the corporate risks which have got perpetuated, and some of the companies, as was stated in the economic survey last month, is the Chakravyuh. How do you get out of that? It's not difficult. It can be sorted out. It can be done pretty easily. It's not an endemic problem. It's a problem that can be resolved if there is laser focus on resolution. And I think the key industries that were suffering, infrastructure, and I spoke about that as an opportunity in adversity. I highlighted that the 8 subsections of infrastructure in India represent terrific opportunity. But the fact is that textiles were sluggish because of global impact, so that will be a sluggish recovery. Steel, because of overall dumping, but China, Japan, and Korea is going through protectionism, and therefore the recovery there is going to be steady, but will come back. It's becoming EBITDA positive, that particular sector. Roads was in a bad state, in a fairly bad state. I think it's getting better because of focused completion of projects, and that is getting into a little bit of risk mitigation. So I'm concerned about public sector banks for the next 12 months. But I think we will tide this over, and fiscal 17-18 should be better.
So thank you, Mr. Rana Kapoor, for your insightful and insider perspective, and also helping us keep the time. Thank you.
All accomplished speakers, great politicians. Manish is, as you know, the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi. We've got Sachin Pilot, former minister, gladly in the Congress party. Of Vajpayee, it was said he was the right man in the wrong party. Many generations later, we can say the same about Sachin. And we've got Sambit Patra, who is the spokesperson for the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is, as you know, ruling India or attempting to. Manish, when you look at the 2 years, what are the few things that you think were right and what are the few things that you think were wrong?
There are certain good things that were started, like Swachh Bharat was one of the best initiatives India needed. Like yoga, of course, and beyond party lines, we participated and everyone should have participated into it. Then Mr. Modi talked about Digital India, Skill India, startups, very noble and much needed ideas for India.
Didn't he also do stand-up? No, not comedy, as a program. Yeah. Sorry.
Then, I mean, these are the things that we were really looking for. Indian youth, Indian market, Indian technology is really looking for these things. But are these things moving ahead or are just naming the words like Skill India, Digital India, Startup India, and again Brand India everywhere around the world? This also I see a positive thing because the Prime Minister going everywhere and people, I mean, living in those countries have told me that they liked the way Prime Minister was received because they feel proud about it. And as a nationalist, as a citizen of India, I feel proud about it. If my Prime Minister is being accepted very well, warmly welcomed across the world.
What do you think from and this is serious, having been a minister in the government in the past, been a responsible member of the Congress party who doesn't need a piece of paper to read his speech, what do you think has changed in... No, that wasn't a reference to Rahul. I mean, no, I'm being serious. That wasn't a reference to Rahul. Rahul stopped reading. I mean, from a piece of paper. But on a serious note, there is a lot of criticism, and Manish touched upon it brilliantly when he said, perhaps the time has come for India to outgrow individuals. And this is an important point. I'm waiting for the Aam Aadmi Party to outgrow Kejriwal, but we'll come to that later. Where do you think this government is failing? And where, as a former minister, do you believe the collective role and responsibility of the cabinet is being skewed?
I think in short, just to sum up how the government's performed, I think it's fallen short because it promised so much. It promised almost everything under the sun just to get power. And once they've gotten that, now they want to consolidate the decision making to a very small section or small group within India. That, I think, again, is not good because even in the cabinet, I don't see anybody standing up to the Prime Minister in questioning in cabinet meetings as to what the policy making should be. Internationally, yes, he's traveled, a lot of countries. He was here in London, had a grand reception. But event management, public speaking, large speeches are not really going to deliver to the common man. What you need is job creation, growth, investments. On the ground, all economic indicators are suggesting that it's not done as well as it promised to do.
It's absolutely important that in fact, you are aware of the facts, but I also speak about the fact as to what extent we have denigrated ourselves politically. We have a Butler House encounter where a police officer is martyred, and we have 2 terrorists killed. And we have a then cabinet minister who goes out to the open saying that the president of the ruling party, she cried for 3 nights because she was disturbed because terrorists were killed. Not a word about the martyred policemen.
Only during the night?
Day and night. Day and night she was crying. Remember, Rahul Gandhi also said that during night, mom crept into my room and said, "Jeher hai Rajniti," and she started crying. Secondly, such is the state of affairs that Osama bin Laden becomes Osama G in our country. How dare we do that? Osama bin Laden is addressed as Osama G.
But that's a BJP culture also, and a Congress culture. Sonia Ji, Osama Ji, Rahul Ji, Azad Ji. Okay, this is not getting very academic. Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, sir.
You.
Can your upper house...
No, 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute. I'm the only person who loves the upstairs as much as the downstairs. So, 1 minute. So, ma'am, stand up, yeah? Come. Then we'll identify the questions. Yes, ma'am. You? And no, there's a lady here. Yes, please stand. So, yes, please ask.
Hi, my name is Sanam Arora. I run the National Indian Students and Alumni Union in the UK. My question is to all panelists and also to you, Sohail, if possible.
Well, I am a panelist in the last year.
There is a 6.5 million deficit of jobs every year that is growing at a compound rate of 9 million per year, because that is the population growth rate in our
Again,
country.
yeah, what's the question?
My question is, why isn't A, anybody talking about population control in the way that you're talking about intolerance or beef or whatever? And B, where are your plans to address this?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my question is for Mr. Sambit. You talked about lakhs of accounts were opened in India, but do we have any stat how many of those accounts are active as of today?
Okay. Wasn't there someone here?
Hi. We've all spoken about how the political system is actually working. When will we start operating our government like a company rather than going back to the panchayats?
Okay. Suit boot ki sarkar. One last question for this round. Now, yes, please. I'm just trying to see who would put up their hands earlier.
Hi, I'm Harry. Do you think there's a problem of personality politics in India, especially around personality cults? I mean, in
Yeah,
my home
just say
state-
it softly. Yeah, we can't understand. Yeah, tell us again.
Do you think there's a problem with personality politics in India and personality cults around major figures? So in my home state, we have Jayalalitha, Karunanidhi, been around for 30 years. No one does anything about them. People follow them like gods. And why is that? And how can we change that?
Excellent.
The latest LSESU survey has said that there are 8 states, large ones, which have a population growth rate of below replacement level. And our population is going to stabilize in the next 5 to 7 years. Having said that, we still have to take care of the ones that we have produced, right? 125 crore, whatever. But
Sherlock, do you?
no, but I think the problem is about the thing we discussed earlier: education, sanitation, healthcare, and things of that nature. Population by itself is not bad for our country because it makes a large market. Yes, we have overcapacity in our large urban centers. But I don't think that the population is that much of an issue, except that if we miss the curve, the golden curve that we have and the dividend that we talk about young people, in 15 years' time it becomes a liability. So this is the real opportunity for us to really leverage on this young population dividend that we have. Otherwise it becomes a huge problem for us. Population growth rate is not a problem because we are going to stabilize in less than a decade. But how we deal with the current population is a much larger problem than the future that we are worried about.
Okay, Sambit, very quickly, then Manish.
She had a very important question.
No, that's why she asked it.
Her question, in fact, reflects the kind of fault lines that the politicians in India have. And I tell you, if you keep on asking us about how we would control the population, none of us.
She's asked you about active accounts.
We are not going to answer you that question only because of the fact that talk about uniform civil code, we are not going to speak about that. The country should have a uniform civil code. Even the director.
She's asked you about active bank accounts.
Who was asking about the population then?
This lady.
She's the one.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out where did she ask about
That is a fantastic memory. But well, okay. You asked about population, and I tell you.
And he's supposed to be a surgeon. They should tell him it's stomach, not brain, it's stomach.
I'll tell you, since it's a very important discussion going on, a debate going on, remember one thing, India really needs a uniform civil code. We may be debating, laughing, smiling all the years, but until and unless we are going to address the basics of Indian polity, the basics of Indian democracy, if we are going to play with the fault lines of this country, if we are going to bring religion into everything, India is never going to prosper. Take my words for that.
Thank you very much for talking about social entrepreneurship. And I wanted to really ask you if you could shed more light on what is the current state of the art when it comes to social enterprising. And you spoke about the funding. So what is the potential in the market where the funding, is there any funding in terms of like large funding specifically for social funding? And like with what happened with Greenpeace last year and like there were like roughly 9,000 NGOs that were, I don't know what the right word would be, but like disbarred or something. What kind of a message it sends? Because a lot of money that comes into social funding comes from outside, and the government has these specific rules about what the political or now they're using terms like security issues are with the money that is coming from outside. So what are your views on that, and where do you think is the current state of the art when it comes to specifically social entrepreneurship? Thank you so much.
With social entrepreneurship, what's happening is that there is a big void after the founders actually put in his own money. So the founder's very excited, very passionate about his idea. He or she believes that this is the right thing to do. That and they feel very deeply about solving a problem on either a rural issue or a issue down the pyramid. So they put in their money, and then there is a big void, right? Which is really the proving the idea, getting your first set of monies, and then scaling the business. I think there's a big void there, and what's happening is that now there are specific structures that are coming in, which either give you grants or debt or soft equity, which kind of bridges the gap between the founder money to idea being proven and venture money coming, right? Which is great because and this is not available to the Mumbai entrepreneurs or the Bangalore entrepreneurs because they can't get grants, right? They're just chasing very commercial ideas, right? So I think the ecosystem is actually poised again at a very, very interesting phase. The only major social entrepreneurship that one could talk about, I wouldn't qualify NGOs as social entrepreneurship at all. I think that's a different example altogether. But micro lending, microfinancing used to be a very celebrated example that would come in. But now you've got these host of ideas, some in pharma, some in farming, which are trying to solve, very structured, as productivity of land and the land sizes actually shrink, in rural India, how to make those lands, more productive. So there are some ideas coming in there.
While funding and all of those things aside, I think a lot of people earlier who wanted to make a difference, right? And this is a question beyond just entrepreneurship as well, right? So you are at a stage where you're saying that you have a problem convincing your parents that you want to become an entrepreneur to make solid amounts of cash and and do something really good. Then comes a conversation where you're saying that I'm going to do this for social good. That conversation is escalated to another level, right? That's a conversation that you're not very comfortable having. But I think the environment has opened up in such a scenario that you're even having a conversation about making money from doing something good, right? So you might not make the same quantum of money, but you're happier trying to make a difference to what the country is. And I think a lot of people are waking up to such a scenario. And I'm hearing this conversation, on and on and on and on. And we have to realize we're 1.3 billion people, right? And a very small majority of us live in connected, I wouldn't say structured cities because that'd be a lie. But we stay in a more connected world. A very small population of that would be in there. So, from that point of view, the opportunity is humongous.
Ms. Chopra, you talked about how there's about a couple of years ago, no one tended to care about which religion you came from and all of that. But in some sense, doesn't that reduce Bollywood soft power? Because then you think about, say, Asaduddin Owaisi is then what people think when you think about Muslim, not Kabir Khan or Salman Khan or Shah Rukh Khan. So in that sense, doesn't that reduce, in some sense, Bollywood soft power?
But this question of yours actually goes beyond just Bollywood. The problem in any minority community has always been that those who don't wear their Muslim identity strongly are never considered to be Muslim enough and are never accepted as role models for the community, which is really sad. Why am I a lesser Muslim than Owaisi? Why is Salman a lesser Muslim than Owaisi? But when it comes to a projection of them as a role model for Muslims, will always be the people who wear their religious identity on their sleeves, and I think it goes beyond our industry. That's what's happening in our society and has been happening for years.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.